So, as you all know, I went to Tanzania in June to represent Operation Christmas Child and, of course, Ledgewood Baptist Church. As we were singing praise today, it just cracked me up because whenever we sing praise, I was with a lot of Pentecostal people, and they're all got their hands up, you know, when they're singing, and they turn to me and they're like, "Oh, she's Baptist. Her hands don't go above her waist." So I just thought of that when I was singing today. I just thought it was funny. So during the week I was there, a verse kept coming to my head from Matthew 28:19 and 20. Therefore, go make disciples of all nations. Sorry. Teach them and observe all things that I have commanded you. I swore I wasn't going to get emotional. I was going to try to stay in that nurse mode. So this is where Tanzania is. It's right below Kenya. And we were actually in the city of Arusha. Just for a little background of Tanzania, the government is really trying to build their infrastructure in Tanzania. So in each village, they have one line of electricity given by the government. And the government actually has also built outhouses in multiple places in each village to keep their feces where they belong. And they also have encouraged their villages to plant community gardens. And they are building, now drilling wells. I always say digging, and my husband gets mad, but drilling wells. So they're at least 5 miles, or as they say, a half a day's walk from each village. They are planning to make more wells around, because that's the hardest thing that they have all through Arusha is clean water. That's the biggest thing they have going for them that they don't have. So the first workshop we did there, they actually go through all the safety stuff that we're supposed to do to make sure we stay safe. But they asked us to pick one word that we thought would carry us through the week. My word was blessed, and I'll round it off with why I thought I was blessed. So it was called a vision trip versus a mission trip. The mission trip that we do is every year here. The mission part of OCC is we're gathering the information, we're getting the boxes, we're getting you charged up to pack boxes. So that's what Ed and I do every year is the mission trip. And our trip happens to be here in Northwest New Jersey in Sussex and Morris County. But the vision trip is because now I'm going to see how our mission here is going to work in the children there. So it's not that I'm bringing the Word of God to them, I'm watching the Word of God being brought to them. So that's why they called it a vision trip. And I just want you to see the little boy. He's reading the gift, the greatest gift that's given to every child. And it's in Swahili, which is the language. And the children there, when they're born, they speak the mother's tongue, which is whatever tribal language they learned. And then Tanzania also pays for primary and secondary schools, so it's free for all children. Primary school is taught in Swahili. Secondary school is taught in English. It's not schools like ours. It's one teacher to 150 to 200 children. That's what their schools are. You can pay for private school, which a lot of them can't afford, and it's still one teacher to 45 to 50 children. So these are just some stats that I thought you might be interested in. We started to send boxes to Tanzania in 2000, and they actually were from the Netherlands. They weren't from the United States. In 2010 is when we started sending containers over there. And in the year 2018 to 2019, we sent 99,757 boxes just to Tanzania. So TGJ means the greatest journey, which is the 12-week discipleship program that we teach that they teach the children afterwards. So they had enrolled last year 1,501. And then this is what I like. 27,000 children accepted Christ. So since 2000, we've delivered over 1,138,503 boxes to Tanzania itself. And 117,774 kids, praise God, came to Christ. They say that one box actually goes out to about 20 to 30 people. That one child explains Christ to that many people. So with that being said, we still only reached 4.7% of the children in Tanzania. So these are the ones that broke my heart. These are the kids that were standing outside the church that we didn't have enough boxes for. So our outreach, we had, three different groups. We were red, yellow, and green. I was on the green team, and there were about 15 volunteers on each team. But then there was also people from Boone, which is the headquarters of Operation Christmas Child, with us. So we all went to 5 different outreaches. We probably handed out about 3,000 boxes in the 5 days that we were there. And the blessing with that 3,000 boxes, all 3,000 of those children will be asked to go to the greatest journey afterwards. So each distribution had about 150 to 200 kids. They really want to do it 150, but they know the pastors are going to invite more children. So we're always ready for about 200 kids. Many of the places we went, this was their first time ever getting boxes distributed at their church. This was a new area of Arusha that we never outreached to. And then the greatest journey experience that we went to, there were about 250 kids when we went to that outreach. So this is just, the first day we were driving, and I was kind of taking some pictures of the different houses and stuff that we were going through the villages. So these, actually, in Arusha, their houses are all that white brick versus the red brick, because for some reason in Arusha, their sand is a different color. So that's why they look more like cinder block. See that little bridge over there? They thought our little bus could go over it. Praise God, he didn't want to, because you don't know what's in those little gullies. So that was just us driving up to the first outreach. And then this was the Assembly of God church that we first went to. Many of the churches we went to were Assembly of God or Pentecostal. So this church is Pastor Kennedy's church. He founded it about 7 years ago. And he has over 200 kids coming to the church. Most of the parents are really single family parents. It's got a huge population of AIDS in that community. So it was a Christian community, but there's 3 mosques to that one Christian church. And you'll see that going from all of our churches. It's a huge population of Muslim people there. And now that's what they're outreaching to. This was a first distribution, so it was the kids of the church that were getting the boxes for the first time. That's what they usually do. They outreach to their own kids first. And then next year they might have another distribution and they'll outreach to the Muslim kids. So whenever we went, we always prayed with the pastor, and those are some of the prayer concerns that he wants. He wants to encourage the kids to love Jesus in the church. He wants the children to be bold to go out to the community to tell about Christ. And there's actually a piece of property across from his church which he wants the teachers to get involved from the public school to start teaching Christ in the public schools. So he wants to have another building there so he could start teaching the public teachers. This was our second outreach, and actually when I pulled up to this, when we drove in, there was a lot of slums, and then we drove into this big 10-foot walled cathedral, like this compound, and it had barbed wire, and I was like, oh, where are we going? You know, because I thought jail. So we drove up, and there's this huge, beautiful church there. And this church was actually built in 1896 by German missionaries. The first group of missionaries that came over to plant this church was actually killed by tribes. And then this mission was so faithful that they actually sent more. They sent more missionaries back, and they built that church. And their actual goal there was not only to plant the church, but to translate the New Testament into Swahili, and I don't know how you say the other one, the other language. So they also, on this, it's such a huge compound. It has an orphanage, it has a hospital, and it has a school in this compound. And they really just bring the kids in. They don't have to pay anything, even for the health care. And this church also, when we drove in, we were like, kind of thought it was weird that you would see huge piles of clothing on different corners. It's because this church goes out every day with the clothing that they've gotten and put it on the corners and let the people come rummage through it. In the evening, they pick it up, bring it back to the school, and then they'll redo it a few times a week for people to get clothing. So this was Pastor Eli Wira, or something like that. That's his prayer concerns. Our third outreach was to Gloryland Church. With Gloryland Church, we had to sit outside in the bus for 20 minutes before we could go in. They wanted the church to look perfect for us, so they were still painting it. So when you walked in the church, all I can remember is just smelling paint. So this church was built 19 years ago. It was founded by Bishop Olam, who is really an amazing guy. He was actually brought up Muslim, and at the age of 24, he turned into a Christian, and then he went to seminary and is now a bishop. He really goes out to the Muslim communities because he's still accepted in the Muslim communities, which you would think he'd be not. And he really goes out to really teach the Muslims about Christ. 32 of his children are from single-parent homes, which is a commonality between most of the churches. And he just really prays that we had all Muslim children at this, mostly Muslim children at this distribution. And he really wanted to show that Christians show love and that we can give them a gift to show them that somebody does love them. And he's hoping that they'll return for the greatest journey. This was actually our greatest journey experience. This church was huge, and they feel that they still need to expand. It was a very lively church and a huge church. They have over 400 members in this church, and 200 of them are children. The group we saw, they were doing the lesson 8 for the greatest journey. And the amazing part is there probably was more than 200 kids there because the kids were bringing friends to come. And they didn't have enough of the greatest journey books. So they were all making them memorize the lessons and memorize the verses. There was a little girl she looked like she was 4, but I think they said she was 6. But she just came up and the teacher would say this verse, and she'd be like saying it in Swahili, say this verse, and she'd just say, and any verse we would say to her, she would say it. But she told the translator her favorite is John 3:16. So, in this church also we had a chance to sit around with a bunch of the children after we did the greatest journey. It was myself and Grace, who is our regional director here. She actually happens to live in Hapakon, but she's part of the Northwest area, Mid-Atlantic North team. And we were sitting with 20 kids around us, and we were asking them different questions of how their life has changed since they started the greatest journey. And the one little girl said, I was doing really bad in school, but I started to pray to your God, and now I'm second in my class. So that was kind of cool. So they were very shy and didn't answer a lot of our questions. So we said, well, let's see if they'll ask us questions. Grace and I, being very naive, thought they'd ask about America. Not so much. They were very deep children. So the first child asks, who is the Holy Spirit and how does he fit in? So I look at Grace and she's like, well, that one's yours. And I'm like, wait a second. You get paid by OCC. I'm a volunteer, but I'll do it. And so I explained how he was a messenger from God and that we listened through the Holy Spirit about God's word. And then she's like, oh, that's good. We don't need to ask him any more questions. I'm like, wait, you guys have any more questions? And they're like, the next question was, who's Judas and why did he hand Jesus over to the bad men to be killed? So she looks at me and I said, oh no, it's your turn. So she's like, that's not fair, you got the easier one. So the kids they really love the Lord, and that when they're really learning, they really look to deep questions. And I'm assuming it's probably because they were taught the Muslim faith first, and they're really trying to make sure that this is kind of real and this is where we want to believe. So our next outreach was to Pastor Moses. Now, Pastor Moses was with us all week long. He is equivalent to Ed and I in Tanzania. We're area coordinators for Morrison, Sussex County. He's the area coordinator, or regional area coordinator for Arusha, for the whole city of Arusha. So he was the one that was setting up all of these distributions. He was a very neat man. He'd walk around with his chest out. He's not scared of anything. Well, he needs to be like that because he lives in the slums of Arusha. And that's where this church was So when we went to this church, he established the church 7 years ago, but only built the church 3 years ago. It's because he had a lot of persecution against him. He's the only Christian church with 9 mosques in his community. And he actually had physical punishment from the Muslim people. They started building the church. The Muslims came and knocked the church down. He had a lot of issues. So he's so proud to say he built the church in 85 days with round-the-clock security. So they were able to build the whole church. Many of the mosques, as you know, have speakers on the top. So when they do their prayer at 6 a.m., 12, and 6 p.m., you can hear it throughout the community. Well, because of that, Pastor Moses wanted speakers on the top of his church. So when we do prayer or they sing praise, that can be blasted through the community. Well, when he put them up, they came and ripped them down. He ended up having to go to court, to their court system. And it took a while, but finally, I guess it's whatever's equivalent to a judge, said to the imams, you know, them people. He said if it's not good enough for Pastor Moses to have speakers on his church, then you need to take them off of the mosques. And they wouldn't do that, so he was able to put his speakers on. They still do have, if you saw the back of the church, they do lock and have gates all over the windows because they do try to come in and vandalize the church often. So this church, this is the area that this church is in. So since Pastor Moses is a very, he actually brought over our security who never lets us even, we weren't even allowed to leave our compound of our hotels. We had to ask permission to go anywhere that we weren't supposed to go. And he talked security into letting us walk around this neighborhood. And as you can see, there's little tiny alleyways. And if many of you know me, I always have like a big old bag and I'm always prepared. And since I was the nurse for our team, I had like everything that you needed to take care of everybody in this bag. So I had Ash, who was our security guard, behind me. And he kept going, I can't believe you wore that big bag. I can't believe you wore that big bag. And I'm like, what is wrong? And he was like, do you see those guys in the corners? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, they're casing you. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, so we were walking through there. And another funny story is I am what they all call bunge bunge over in Africa. And bunge bunge means you got a little chubbiness on you, which is a term of endearment there. So when you're bunge bunge in Africa, you got money to eat, so they think you're rich. So he said, they think you have money, and they think you have lots of it, because you have this big bag. I said, they're just going to get Band-Aids and Tylenol. So he was funny. So that top left corner there, that's one of the houses that they live in there. It's made of mud and manure with sticks all over it. There was a family of, they said 8 to 16 that lived in that home. This is the outhouses over here and the community garden right in front, I guess so the fertilizer can get real close. And then these are just the alleyways, and there's all these like little like streams of kind of muck that you're not quite sure what it is. But these alleyways, you can't tell, but there's little like alcoves in them. And that's where the guys were hiding to try to come out to us. There was one guy that kept like following us. I was a little uneasy. So was Ash, obviously, because he was right with me. So, so this was the last church we went to. This was like in the lower hills of Mount Meru that we were by. And it was really actually very pretty right up there. But then once you got, well, the roads have like big old canyons in them that you're going through with the bus. But this church, we had probably about 50 kids outside the church that were not allowed in the church. So when our bus pulled up, I don't know if you can tell, but the door is locked. It's a big kind of metal door, it's locked. So we had to wait in the bus, and the guys had to make lines so we could walk through to get into the church, so the kids that were outside couldn't get in and their parents couldn't push to get them in because they heard that they were giving away free things. So that was hard for us to see. So this was Pastor Eli. He was also with us during the whole week. He founded this church 19 years ago. And this that community pretty much lives on it less than $1 a day. So does Pastor Moses's community. And they sell fruit. Their biggest fruit that they have there are bananas. Wherever you go, you just see them hanging on trees. And many times when you're driving, you just see them on the street with a little hibachi grill cooking the bananas. They also sell bread. That's not like our bread. I don't even know what you would kind of call it. So they sell that to get by. One of the other churches, I don't know if you read it on there, there was 8 Muslim children that were disowned by their family that church actually took in and are caring for them because the family said if you want to go to that church, you can't come home. So that's what a lot of the children are getting put up against with their families. And then when they do the Greatest Journey, they're bringing the Greatest Journey home. And here and in one of the other churches, a lot of those Muslim parents are now starting to come to the churches with their children, which is a blessing. So I wanted to kind of show you what a distribution looked like. This was after they actually received their boxes, but they usually have the girls on one side of the room and the boys on the other side of the room. And the kids are sitting from ages 2 to 14 all the way back. Usually in a distribution, we give the kids 14 years old first the boxes and then go to the lower ages, because Samaritan's Purse is it's one child, one one box, one lifetime. So they figure the 14-year-old kids and the older ones will age out if another distribution doesn't come. They usually wait 10 years to come back. But in Arusha, they've been doing it almost yearly at many of the churches just because there's such a huge Muslim population and they're trying to get the Muslim kids in. But for some reason, Pastor Moses was very adamant that we did the little kids first and the older kids last. So when you come into the church, the kids are sitting there, and we walk in the back, and they're all looking at us saying, Rakifis are here, Rakifis are here, white men's here, white men's here, is what it means. So, and up in the front, they would have cases of, cartons of the boxes covered in something so the kids don't know. And we would walk in and we would introduce ourselves and say, we're from America, and we love Jesus, and we have a gift for you that Jesus wants you to have. It's very non-threatening. And then they would do a gospel presentation with posters like this, much bigger. And there's a few posters that they go through, and it goes all the way to the resurrection. Well, actually, that's being friends with Jesus. It goes all the way to the resurrection. And they talk to them about who Jesus is and why you'd want to be friends with them. And then at the end of that presentation, they would have the kids pray to be friends with Jesus. And then they would get their boxes. This little girl, her name is Vanessa. She has pictures over there also. We were with her, Grace and I, and when she opened her box, if you notice, her feet are cut off a little bit here, but she has mismatched socks, and she's got holes in her toes, socks, and her sandals are very well worn. She opened up her box, and she has 3 pairs of socks and a pair of Crocs in her box. So you know God's hand is always in these boxes. And he delivers them to the right people. She didn't know what those Crocs were, so Grace got the translator and told her that they were shoes, and that's what her face looked like when she found out they were shoes. So whenever you took out your phone or your iPad, the kids would start jumping all over you because they want to see themselves. They're always asking for pictures of themselves and for you to show them, because I guess they obviously don't have very many mirrors. But there's a lot of adults that do have cell phones, but so they always want pictures. So as my daughter says, I'm old. I'm not very good at taking selfies, but I'm trying to take selfies, and we're cracking up because I couldn't reach out far enough to get us. And so, and then the more you do it, the more kids are climbing all over you. This little girl here, it didn't matter what we did to try to make her smile. She just wouldn't smile. It kind of broke your heart, but she was so really happy that she got that big box. This little girl over here has one of those party blowers, and she kept bringing it up to me, and I'm like going, because she doesn't speak English, and she's looking at me, and I'm like, finally I took it from her, and I put it by my mouth, and I said, blow. And then she finally got it, and she was like, oh. And So the simple gifts that we think, anything that our children probably wouldn't like, they would really love. The simple gifts like those, the paddle balls. I had one of the pastors was trying to teach the kids how to do a paddle ball, and he couldn't figure it out. So I showed them how to do it, and then they were trying to do it, and they couldn't figure it out either. So then they would take it and smack the next kid next to them. So, they're just kids. It's great. So the moms really touched my heart. This mom here asked me to take a picture, and I got to send it to a church because she wanted a picture of her and her daughter together. So they all would come up and just be they're like, thank you for making my child smile. Thank you for giving my child a gift. She over here said, thank you for giving me a book to read to my son, and look at the book she's reading. It's the greatest gift. We had another mom come up to us and say, thank you, my son got a Bible in his box. I know he's going to be a pastor. So the moms are great. They touched my heart, and they spoke English. So this is a dark picture, I know, but I wanted you to see what the little girl has in her hand right here. It's a piece of styrofoam. She walked into the church with her older sister, and these are my hands. They happened to sit next to me, and the little girl was on my lap for a while, and we were playing with this piece of styrofoam like it was a toy, and that's her toy. So then she goes back on her sister's lap, and like any other kid, she threw it on the floor, hit my leg to pick it up. I pick it up, she threw it on the floor. But that was her toy before she got her boxes. And just like any other child, they find anything to play with, but it was dirty, and she would put it in her mouth, but I'm telling her not to put it in her mouth. This next little girl, her name is Dorcas, and she came up to me. She was one of the first ones that would come up to me to ask me to sponsor her in university. I didn't know why everyone was asking me until I found out I was boongay boongay. So she came up, and her story is really, she came up and she was telling me how she has 95% in school, and she knows she can make it in university. She wants to be a pilot, but everyone in her family and in her town tell her she can't be a pilot because she's a woman, and women don't fly planes. And I said, God is amazing. If you want to be a pilot and that's in his plan, you're going to fly a plane, don't you worry. So, and then she asked me to sponsor her. So, this is one of the first little girls I met. She gave me her name in Swahili, and I can't say it, but in English, her name is Love Ali, as she told me, not Lovely. Love Ali. And when she first came into the church, she kept looking at me, and she because I was sitting on the end, and this was when she was praying to make Jesus her friend. And then afterwards, I went and found her, and that was her favorite thing from her shoebox was her hat she got and the ball. And we're going to send her that picture to the church too. I just wanted to show you, sunglasses are a big hit. So they put them on, and they see the different colors that the room turns, and they just can't believe that. One of our translators that are with us, we gave her a bunch of sunglasses at the end because she couldn't figure out what the big thing about sunglasses was. And she put them on, and she noticed, but she's like, when do I wear them? At nighttime? And we're like, no, wear them during the day when the sun is out. She goes, we would never waste our money on them. They're so expensive. So now she has 6 pairs. One for her husband, too. This little girl wouldn't speak to us. She probably didn't understand us. She wouldn't open her box, but all she would do was smile. And I just loved her smile because you're missing her teeth. She's so cute. This was one of the Muslim girls that she could say thank you, and that's all she said was thank you, thank you. This little girl, she was sitting by me with the other girl with the styrofoam. I don't know if you saw her little hat in the background, but she was playing with me too while we were listening to the gospel presentation, and she showed me she got her box. When we were walking around Pastor Moses's community, she was out there after the distribution playing with her new baby doll she got. And if you notice, that's a washcloth she's using because it's cold there. They all had on winter jackets and long pants under their skirts and hats and gloves because, it was 70 degrees. It was cold for them. So it was their winter. It was just starting winter. This little boy, he was just funny. He was running home to show his mom that box. And footballs are big. They don't know what they are because they look funny. They're not a ball, they tell us. We're like, but they are. So after a distribution, we would go out in the front of the church if it was safe, and we would play a little bit with them. So then we would show them how to use the footballs and stuff, and the soccer balls we would kick around with them. The story is not about this particular mom and child, but I wanted to show you that there are a lot of children there with disabilities. And the story I have is with Bill is actually our regional director from the Mid-Atlantic region that Ed and I are in. And he is a pastor at a church, and he also works with OCC. And he has multiple children that are disabled at home that he has adopted. So he always was drawn to them. So he saw a mom and a daughter sitting on the side, and he didn't notice if the girl got a box or not. So he wanted to make sure she got a box. So he went over to her, and she had a box, so he just left them alone and walked away. But all the kids opened their boxes, and then in the midst of it, the translator came over to Bill and said, that mom wants the big white man to come pray for her child. So when he went back, he found out that they were Muslim. And she wanted him to pray to our God to heal her child. Because the child was not always sick. It just had happened within the last few years that she's not able to walk. So he explained that, our God still has a will, but I will definitely pray for healing for her. And he did. He prayed for the child for healing. And the mom thanked him. And then as he was walking away again, the translator said, come back. The mom wants to talk to you. And the mom said, I want to pray to accept your God. And he's like, okay. So he had the translator ask more questions to make sure it was really, truly in her heart. And it was. So he prayed with her. The mom also accepted God as her Savior. And so we wanted to give her a Bible. But she wasn't able to read because she was Muslim, and they don't teach the women how to read. So it was Pastor Moses' church that we were in. So Pastor Moses said he knows where she lives, and I have a group of women that can go over, and we'll give her a Bible, and they'll teach her to read in Swahili. So that was really neat. And Bill has been on many, many distributions, and he said, this is the one that I'll never, ever forget. He goes, if God put me in my career for just this one mother and child, he goes, I'm set. So I'm Harry and Ed. After we do the distribution, we get with the leadership team, and this is Bill, actually, and we pray with them, and that's where we get the prayer concerns, and we pray with them, and that means God is good. I used to know how to say it, but I don't know how to say it now. So that was us praying at the end of each distribution. These are the kids leaving the distributions. As we were driving out in the buses, we would just see them walking along the street with their boxes, which was really cool. So this is why I was blessed. Oh, it's cut off. I was blessed to ask to go on this vision trip. After all these years, I've been doing Operation Christmas Child since Kimberly was 2, so 20 years. And I didn't do it thinking that I would ever get the privilege to go on that trip. So I was blessed to meet the national leadership team over in Arusha. It is amazing what they do over there. I was blessed to meet all of the people at Boone. We talk to them on the phone a lot. We see them here and there when we go to the processing center, but you never get to sit and talk to them, so that was amazing. I was blessed to be part of the Green Team because, as our coach Abrams said, the Green Team is always the best, and we were the best. I was blessed by every child that I handed a box to, and every mom I spoke with. I could never, that'll always be with my heart. And finally, I was blessed that God actually picked me 20 years ago to bring this ministry to you. And I have a 3-minute video if you think we got okay. It's the smiles that got me. And this is about the smiles. There'll be sound shortly.
Rejoice in the Lord, hallelujah. Rejoice in the Lord, hallelujah. Rejoice in the Lord, hallelujah.
So I just want to thank each and every one of you and say, Jesus anakupenda. Jesus loves each one of you, and thank you for packing shoe boxes. And that's my team. Since I ran a little late, if you have questions, you can, it's up to Pastor Rich, you can ask them now, or I'm going to be here for a while if you have questions.
How about the questions after?
Yep.
And tell them about the pictures you have.
So I have different pictures around the sanctuary. There's the boy over here. He was looking at that green flashlight, and he didn't know what it was until somebody pushed the button on the bottom, and that's when he figured it was a flashlight. That's just a bunch of different pictures that I have there. That's the little girl with the styrofoam, and then that's Vanessa, my little sweetheart.
And there's a display over there.
And if anyone is interested, and God has put it on your heart to be a year-round volunteer, I have to plug for my team. Ed and I are in charge of that team, so if you're more than welcome to take information, pray about it, and make sure God puts that on your heart, and we'll pray about it together. And then if you'd like to join our team, we're always welcome. And of course, it's never too early to pack a shoebox. There are shoeboxes here, and there are paperwork over there if you'd like to pack a shoebox. Thanks.